There are people listening to this right now who are terrified of marriage. Not because they do not believe in love, but because they have seen what happens when love is rushed. They have seen broken homes, silent dinners, cold hearts sleeping in the same bed, promises that sounded holy at the altar but died slowly behind closed doors. And maybe that fear lives inside you too. You want marriage, you pray for it, you dream about it, but one question keeps haunting your heart. When is the right time to marry? Not when your friends are getting married. Not when your parents are pressuring you. Not when loneliness starts screaming at night. But God's time, the right time, the perfect time, because deep down, you know something many people ignore. A wrong marriage can delay destiny. A rushed marriage can wound your spirit. And a relationship outside of God's timing can become a prison you once prayed for. That is why this message matters. Because timing changes everything. Two good people can still destroy each other if the timing is wrong. You can love someone deeply and still not be ready to build a covenant with them. You can have chemistry and still lack maturity. And the truth is painful. Many people are not waiting for marriage anymore. They are waiting for escape. Escape from loneliness. Escape from pressure. Escape from watching everyone else move ahead. But marriage was never designed to rescue your emptiness. Only God can do that. Listen carefully. If you are not whole before marriage, marriage will expose every crack in your soul. Because marriage is not a magic door. It is a mirror. It reveals your patience, your selfishness, your anger, your wounds, your insecurities, your spiritual condition. And this is why timing matters more than feelings. Feelings can change overnight, but preparation changes your future. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Did you hear that? A season, a time, a purpose. God is not random, He is intentional. And if God created seasons for nature, He also created seasons for your life. There is a season for growth, a season for healing, a season for waiting, and yes, a season for marriage. The danger is when you force yourself into a season God never opened. That is how people end up emotionally exhausted. Because impatience always creates Ishmaels. Abraham knew God promised him a son. But instead of waiting for God's timing, he rushed ahead. And the result brought pain, conflict, and consequences for generations. Some of you are trying to manufacture what God promised. You are chasing relationships out of fear. You are settling because time is moving. You are ignoring red flags because you do not want to start over. But hear this clearly. A delayed promise is better than a destructive shortcut. The right person at the wrong time can still become heartbreak. And sometimes God delays marriage because He loves you too much to let you enter it unprepared. Think about that. What if the delay is protection? What if God sees something you cannot see? What if the person you are crying over would have shattered your peace 6 months later? You call it rejection. God calls it rescue. You call it delay. God calls it development. Because before God gives you someone's heart, He often works on yours first. And that process is uncomfortable. It is lonely sometimes. It tests your faith, especially when everyone around you seems to be moving faster. You scroll through engagement photos, wedding videos, baby announcements, and suddenly you start feeling left behind. But comparison is dangerous, because people only post the smiles, not the sleepless nights, not the arguments, not the regret, not the emotional distance. Some marriages look beautiful online and miserable in private. So stop measuring your destiny against somebody else's timeline. God does not copy and paste lives. Your story is different. Your assignment is different. Your timing is different. And one of the greatest signs that you are not ready for marriage is desperation. Desperate people ignore wisdom. Desperate people tolerate disrespect. Desperate people choose attention over character. But marriage is too sacred for desperation. Marriage is covenant, not convenience, not panic, not competition. Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, and gave himself for it." That is not casual love. That is sacrificial love. The kind of love that dies to selfishness. The kind of love that serves, protects, endures, forgives. And if you are not ready to love like Christ, then you are not ready for marriage yet. Because marriage is not sustained by attraction. It is sustained by character. Beauty changes. Emotions fluctuate. Life gets hard. But character carries the covenant. And this generation desperately needs to hear this. Marriage is not about finding a perfect person. There are no perfect people. It is about becoming the right person while trusting God to lead you to another person doing the same. The problem is many people are preparing for a wedding but not preparing for marriage. They are obsessed with rings, dresses, aesthetics, and pictures. But they are not learning communication, forgiveness, patience, stewardship, prayer. Listen, a wedding lasts one day. Marriage lasts a lifetime, so when is the right time to marry? It is not just when you find someone attractive. It is when you are spiritually grounded enough to build with them. When your identity is rooted in Christ instead of emotional dependency. When you can handle commitment without losing yourself. When you understand that love is not only a feeling but a daily decision. And here is something most people never say. Sometimes the right time to marry comes after God breaks you. Because broken pride creates humility. Broken selfishness creates maturity. Broken fantasies create wisdom. Many people enter marriage addicted to unrealistic expectations. They think marriage will feel romantic every day. But real marriage has ordinary days. Bills, stress, misunderstandings, sacrifice. And if your faith cannot survive ordinary seasons, your marriage will struggle too. That is why preparation matters. God often prepares you in private before he blesses you publicly. David was anointed king long before he sat on the throne. Joseph dreamed of greatness long before the palace. Jesus spent years preparing before public ministry. So why do we expect marriage without preparation? The waiting season is not wasted. It is training. God is teaching you discernment. He is teaching you self-control. He is teaching you how to hear his voice. Because one wrong decision in marriage can affect decades of your life. Do not choose someone simply because they are available. Choose someone whose spirit aligns with God's direction for your life. And please hear this. Peace matters. The right relationship should not constantly pull you away from God. It should push both of you closer to him. If a relationship keeps damaging your peace, destroying your values, and weakening your spiritual life, pay attention. Love should never require you to abandon wisdom. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers." That verse is not about superiority. It is about alignment. Because when two people are walking in opposite spiritual directions, somebody eventually gets dragged. And too many believers are marrying chemistry without checking compatibility. You can laugh together and still not build together. You can enjoy each other and still destroy each other spiritually. The right time to marry is when purpose and peace meet preparation. Not perfection, preparation. And some of you listening right now are frustrated because you feel forgotten. You have prayed, you have waited, you have tried to stay faithful. And still nothing. But let me remind you of something powerful. God is never late. Never. Humans panic because we see clocks. God works through purpose. Lazarus died before Jesus arrived. People thought it was over. But Jesus was not late. He was intentional. Because sometimes God waits until a situation looks impossible so his glory becomes undeniable. And maybe your waiting season is building a testimony you cannot see yet. Maybe God is protecting your future marriage from the version of you that still needed healing. Because unhealed people often bleed on innocent people. Some people carry childhood wounds into marriage. Trust issues, abandonment fears, anger, bitterness. Then they expect their spouse to heal what only God can heal. No human can carry that weight forever. Healing matters. Wholeness matters. Your future spouse is not your savior. Jesus is. And when Christ becomes enough for you, you stop chasing relationships from emptiness. You start choosing from wisdom instead of fear. That changes everything. Because desperation blinds people, but purpose gives clarity. There are people who married too early and spent years recovering emotionally. Not because marriage is bad, but because timing matters. Imagine planting a seed in the wrong season. Even a healthy seed struggles in the wrong environment. That is what rushed marriage feels like. And society keeps lying to people. It says if you are single too long, something is wrong with you. No. Sometimes singleness is sacred. Sometimes singleness is preparation. Sometimes singleness is protection. Jesus was single. Paul was single. Your value is not measured by relationship status. You are already loved by God. Already chosen. Already seen. And ironically, when you stop idolizing marriage, you become healthier for it. Because idols always create unhealthy pressure. Marriage is beautiful, but it was never meant to replace God in your heart. And some of you need to stop asking only, when will I get married? Start asking, who am I becoming while I wait? That question changes your life. Because waiting seasons reveal your true condition. Can you still trust God when the answer is delayed? Can you still grow when nobody is applauding you? Can you still become disciplined when nobody is watching? Character built in hidden seasons becomes strength in marriage later. And listen carefully to this. The enemy is not always trying to stop your marriage. Sometimes he is trying to rush it. Because rushed decisions create unnecessary pain. The devil does not care if you marry the wrong person as long as it distracts your purpose. That is why discernment matters. Not everybody who likes you is assigned to you. Not everybody who enters your life is meant to stay. And physical attraction alone is not enough. You need someone who honors God. someone teachable, someone honest, someone capable of commitment, because eventually beauty ages, charm fades, but integrity becomes priceless. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." That includes relationships. That includes marriage timing. You do not have to manipulate your future. You do not have to force doors open. God knows how to lead people together. And when God is truly at the center, there is peace even in waiting. Not because waiting feels easy, but because trust becomes stronger than anxiety. And maybe this message is not just about marriage. Maybe it is about surrender. Because some people want marriage more than they want God's will. That is dangerous. Anything you desire more than obedience can become an idol. And idols always disappoint eventually. But when God becomes your foundation, relationships stop becoming your identity. You stop panicking. You stop settling. You stop begging for love from people who are emotionally unavailable. Because you finally understand your worth. And the right person will never require you to shrink your standards to keep them. Never. Real love respects conviction. Real love values honesty. Real love protects peace. So if you are waiting right now, do not waste the season. Grow spiritually. Develop emotionally. Learn communication. Build discipline. Strengthen your relationship with God. Because healthy marriages are not built overnight. They are built through preparation long before the wedding day arrives. And hear this deeply. God is more interested in your holiness than your relationship status. He cares about your soul, your character, your purpose. Because marriage is not the finish line. It is another chapter of responsibility. And if you enter it without wisdom, the weight can crush you. But when God leads you into marriage at the right time, something beautiful happens. There is alignment, not perfection. Alignment. You stop forcing, stop pretending, stop carrying the relationship alone. There is peace, not because there are no problems, but because both people are committed to growing with God together. That kind of marriage becomes powerful. It becomes ministry. It becomes healing. It becomes an example to future generations. And this world desperately needs godly marriages again. Marriages built on prayer instead of performance. Truth instead of image. Commitment instead of convenience. The enemy attacks marriage because marriage reflects covenant. And covenant reflects God. That is why your timing matters so much. Your future family matters. Your future children matter. Your spiritual legacy matters. So do not rush something sacred. Do not let culture pressure you into permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. Wait for clarity. Wait for wisdom. Wait for God's peace. Because one moment of impatience can create years of regret. But one season of obedience can create a lifetime of peace. And if you are discouraged today, remember this. God has not forgotten you. Not for 1 second. Your story is still unfolding. And sometimes the delay you hate today becomes the testimony you thank God for tomorrow. One day you may look back and realize God was protecting you from heartbreak you could not see. One day you may thank Him for every closed door, every delay, every unanswered prayer, every relationship that ended, because God sees the full picture while you only see the moment. So trust Him, even when you do not understand, even when you feel alone, even when everybody else seems ahead. Your timing is in God's hands, and His hands do not fail. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and He shall strengthen thine heart." That verse is for somebody listening right now. Because waiting takes courage, trusting takes courage, staying faithful in a lonely season takes courage. But God strengthens those who wait on Him, not those who rush ahead in fear. So if marriage is your prayer, surrender it fully to God. Not halfway, fully. Trust Him enough to say, "Lord, I would rather wait for your will than rush into my own disaster." That prayer can save your future. Because the right time to marry is not determined by age alone. Not pressure, not loneliness, not social media. The right time is when God has shaped your heart, anchored your spirit, and aligned your path with someone who is also pursuing Him. That is the secret to perfect timing. Not speed, not panic, not comparison, but surrender. And when God writes your love story, it may take time. But it will carry peace that rushed relationships can never imitate. So wait with wisdom, prepare with faith, and trust that what God builds in His timing will never require you to betray your peace to keep it.